Dr. Ernest Moniz, first, welcome to this interview, and second, big congratulations for this award, the Leader of Change Award. Let me start by asking you about this award specifically. I want to ask you about leader part and the change part. Let's start with the leadership part. What sort of leadership nowadays we need in the energy transition?
Well, we certainly need a lot of leadership, and I'm very much hoping we'll find some of that continuing at COP28. I fully expect it. We have a tough path ahead of us. We really have all adopted the net zero by mid-century target and aggressive targets for 2030 in order to be on the right pathway. But we know this will require change of the energy system at a scale and at a pace that we have never seen before. My problem is that I think that we have lots and lots of really interesting technology innovation going on, and it's there. But one of our other problems is infrastructure. We have to be able to connect those energy sources to the energy users. And in almost all countries, we are seeing big challenges there. So that's an example of where we're going to need real leadership, political leadership, and social leadership in order to advance the infrastructure, which we know how to do in principle, but are having a hard time doing.
So the leadership we need to be able to do this change. Speaking about the change, how difficult it is with having this constant change?
Well, change is always challenging. And by the way, I want to emphasize that social equity concerns are really very, very important. And we do ourselves no favor if we do not recognize that many workers in many communities are justified in their concern about where they will fit into a low-carbon economy, because it'll be a very, very changed economy, right? So we need to look at all of these facets at one time. That's the leadership we need. I think we need a leadership that at least understands technology and the need. A leadership that understands how business is going to have to change with new models, new ways of financing clean energy projects. Right now in the United States, for example, I would argue we have a lot more capital available than we have financeable projects. To make them financeable, we're also going to need policy and regulatory change. So all of that, together with social equity, has to come together. And I think that's the leadership we need. Not leadership that looks at one area, but brings them all together into something that the political system can absorb.
Speaking about technology, one of the challenges is probably this technology being accessible to everyone. Do you agree?
Well, yes. I mean, clearly, the climate challenge is a global challenge, and everyone has to be part of this. So when we deploy renewables or batteries or electric vehicles or carbon capture or nuclear power or carbon dioxide removal, we have to have them available to all the places that can use those technologies. Now, for the industrialized world, the resources are there. There are still political barriers. But if I flip to the developing world, for example, we're also going to need resource flow from the industrialized countries to those countries, essentially putting those technologies we discussed earlier to work in those countries. To do so, I believe we're also going to need, going back to my theme of policy, we're going to need really good carbon markets so that, let's say, the industrialized countries can support clean energy projects in the developing world and get the proper credit, not too little and not too much, for the carbon that is removed or avoided in the developing world. So again, a lot of pieces need to fit together, and we need to go back to your earlier theme, the leadership that can look at this in a holistic way.
So nobody's left behind.
Nobody can be left behind. If we leave a lot of people behind, we're leaving our goals behind because we will not meet them.
The theme of ADIPEC this year is decarbonizing faster together. Are we working as fast as we should be? Are we cooperating as we should be?
No, we're certainly not working as fast as we need to be. Clearly, we are falling behind in our greenhouse gas emissions goals. In fact, frankly, we've seen global emissions rise, certainly in the post-COVID period. That's not good enough. That's why net zero is so important. It's because it's only when you reach net zero that you stop making the problem worse. There's a lot of confusion in some people's minds that if we levelize emissions, we've ended creating the problem. It's not true. We stop creating the problem only when we get to net zero emissions. I do also want to emphasize that the word net there is very important. In my view, we will never go to zero emissions. There will always be some residual, but we have to compensate for that and ideally overcompensate for it with negative carbon technologies. We have those available. They're very expensive today. That's where technology innovation will drive costs down, but net zero is very important. My concern is that some now are on the bandwagon with a little bit too much enthusiasm. They want the net to be really, really big. I think we have to work hard to get emissions down, but then we are going to have to compensate with negative carbon.
And to be more realistic.
We have to be realistic. We have to be aggressive and realistic. We're not going to get there by lounging around and hoping somebody else does it. It's for everyone to jump in. Again, we're all in this together, and we just need to work really, really hard. Clearly, efficiency is very important. I mentioned negative carbon technologies, but the other thing I would just mention in terms of directions is that the leading, what I would call the lead horse in the race to low carbon is going to be the electricity sector. And so right now, I think we need to focus really hard on getting the electricity sector down substantially. We've made a lot of progress in many places, a lot more to go, while we simultaneously set the stage for low carbon fuels. Maybe it's hydrogen, maybe it's something else, but lots and lots to do.
Let me end this by asking you, how does it feel? I know you're so happy, so proud to be recognized here in Abu Dhabi for such an award, the leader of change.
Well, I think it certainly means a lot to me personally. I think it means a lot to my colleagues as well, with whom I've worked over many, many decades. But I have to say, coming here in Abu Dhabi, in the Emirates, there are two reasons why it's particularly pleasing. One is, this is the run-up to COP28. And I personally believe that COP28 can be, and has a good chance to be, a turning point where the COP meetings become pragmatic and results-oriented. That is the philosophy of Dr. Sultan. He is aggressive in the most positive sense. He really wants to succeed for the Emirates and for the world. So I think the COP28 trajectory, and I will certainly do all that I can to support a successful COP. The second reason is that the Emirates, I think, really are in the lead for an overall economic transformation. The Emirates have done an awful lot in terms of advancing, pioneering different technologies. The success in building nuclear power plants is a global story. Very aggressive in terms of carbon capture and sequestration, very aggressive in terms of removing relic CO2 from the atmosphere, but also going back 20 years. I can remember at MIT working with Dr. Sultan when he was establishing Masdar, really focusing on renewables and young people development. Very, very important. So I would say for both of those reasons, it's especially pleasing to receive this recognition here in the Emirates.
Thank you. Congratulations.
You're welcome. Thank you.